Scene interview, Foxtrot, take one.
Can you tell me your name, please?
Missy Lee Sterling.
Please, when you speak to me, answer.
Off. My name is Missy Lee Sterling.
Why did you want to do this?
So, like, when I started all of this, like, I saw the thing and I thought, like, I had something to prove. It's hard to explain. That's not like it, but that's the only way I can think to explain it using words. There's really not a language for that emotion, but that would be the best way to describe it. Like, I had something to prove, and then now I kind of wonder why. I don't know what I thought I had to prove, but it just, maybe I needed everyone else to believe it was real, so I didn't feel so not okay. But that's why we're all here, because I saw, I saw this weird creature in the road, and
Well, why don't we start at the beginning? So, like, that night.
Okay, yeah.
No, you're doing great. I thought that was really good. But take me back to the night that this all started. It was 2018 or 2019.
I was on my way home from my mom's house, and I know it was a Sunday because I'm sorry. Oh my God, we have to cut this part. I always went to see my mom on Sunday. This isn't awkward at all. Just give me a second, I'll get over it, hold on. Because I always went to see my mom on Sundays. And it's like this 2-lane road, and there's forest on either side, and every once in a while there's like a house. But it's not like a neighborhood, but it was populated. And the road at some point gets pretty windy. And I was rounding the last curve, and it's like an uphill curve, and then as you come around the hill, it takes you kind of down before it straightens out. And I could see something like ahead in the road. And at first I thought it was a deer. And then I started to slow down, and I'm getting closer, and it's not moving. And the closer I get, okay, so before I came around the curve where I could see that there was something ahead, the hair on the back of my neck stood up, and I, out of nowhere, I was so overcome with fear that I felt like I was gonna get sick. And I've never had any kind of fear like that. I've been scared of things before, like the dark and my dad, but I've never had a fear so intense that I thought I might vomit. So then it kind of died down, and I was like, oh, that was weird. Maybe I was fixing to have a panic attack for no reason. But as I round the curve and I see this thing ahead in the road, I thought it's a deer, because I always see deer. I always have accidents with deer. I'm prone to accidents with deer. And so as I got closer, I could tell that it wasn't a deer. And my mind didn't go to any other animal, because this shock sets in. By the time I was right on it, I was at a complete stop. And it was this pale, super pale, chalk white. And it was emaciated, it could have been a skeleton almost. And it was on its, I dare say hands, but I never saw the hands because I was so fixated on its face, but it would have been on all fours. And it had these big black round eyes. They were massive. It almost, there were eyes, but the size of them would have been no eye and just a socket. And its mouth was massive. It was gaping open, and then this part just eats me up. No, it looked like it was you would see a scream face, it was gonna scream, but there was no sound. Everything was dead quiet. And I don't have any concept of time. It warps your concept of time. I have no idea how long I sat there. It felt like an entire lifetime passed, right? Because it's just life was one way and now this has happened. And some part of you knows, like, you're never going back. Even in that moment, like, I had this awareness, like, everything's flipped now because you think you know what the world's like. And then, so at some point it got up on its back, like whatever those things are, back extremities, and it like kind of launched itself like into the field. It was unearthly fast. Like it looked just like a white flash. And like right before it launched, it did this horrific scream. It was similar to a mountain lion, similar to a woman being unalived. Is that politically correct? It sounded kind of like a mountain lion. That's the only thing I can think to relate it to. But there was something mechanical about it, or robotic, more like metallic even. Again, like we don't have really any kind of language to describe these kind of experiences. Does that make sense? Yeah. So my next memory, I'm on the side of the road. I was trying to use my phone because I wanted to call my mom, and I couldn't figure out how to operate it. It looked like it was just some foreign piece of machine. Like, I obviously knew I could pick it up and reach someone or do something, but I couldn't figure out how to unlock it, how to get it. Took me, oh man, I was so frustrated too because I was just like, my brain wouldn't work. So I just got the first person in my call log, which would have been the last person I'd spoken to, and no answer. And the thing that really just like, I don't have any memory after that creature launched off to where I drove and stopped on the side of the road. It's blank. I have nothing. And I guess that's trauma, you know. So I went home and, well, first I had to shower because I had wet my pants. And then I sat on the couch and stared at the wall for a long time. And I mean, I don't remember exactly like what was going on, but it was like this very urgent conversation with myself, like, you're losing your mind. How much time do you have before everyone around you finds out? Like, and it was this, what do you do with that, you know? I might have waited like a month maybe, and I told a friend, and this girl, I've known her since we were 5. And so like I can remember after I told her, like this weight started to lift, and then I saw her face. And it wasn't what I expected. I don't really know what I expected, maybe like comfort, understanding. But she said, Missy, 2 things, and she called me hun, and it sounded so condescending. 2 things, hun. She's like, 1, you're gonna need to talk to someone, and 2, it's gonna need to be a professional. You don't ever need to repeat this to anyone. You cannot become one of those Bigfoot is real people. And I was like, holy crap, Bigfoot probably is real. Like, it just, in that moment, it opened up this whole, if this is out there and I didn't know this exists, then what else is out there? And so I did end up making an appointment with a therapist. There's a love-hate thing for him. I think I really wanted to be crazy, but he said that I wasn't, and that he didn't feel that I was hallucinating, and that, you know, I was of sound-minded body, but I was shaken, and he felt I would recover. And I was pretty furious, like, because I thought he'd give me an answer, right? And I didn't think he believed me. And that invalidation, it's like so painful. It feels like it's a threat to your existence almost. So he said it doesn't matter whether or not I believe you. And then he like Jedi mind tricked me. He's like, have you ever considered that there may be other people who've experienced the same thing you have? And that was it. That was like all it took. I don't think I even sat with it for a day before I typed it into the computer. I was like, pale humanoid in rural area. I don't know. I would love to have my search history from that time because it's probably insane. Stuff starts popping up, and there was some of it. Initially, I thought, okay, great, this is all fiction. And then something caught my eye about a mouth that appeared on a hinge, and that took me to a subreddit, which Reddit, I don't know if you know this, but it can kind of be a cesspool. Yeah, it's like R crawler sightings. It could be R crawler encounters. So I think I consumed that entire subreddit in like one night, and like these people were being serious, and I knew they were, because there were certain details that it's like something you can't quite put your finger on, but when you've been through something like that and you read an encounter that somebody's given explaining what they've been through, and it's super weird and not really a lot of people have experienced it, like they were there in that place too, because like I said, it's really difficult to explain that part, but I feel like I can tell, like I can read through that subreddit and I can tell when someone's full of crap. And I think I'm like dead on, because you go through it and it's something, it changes your barometer. You like recognize, when you meet people that are kindred spirits, but it's much deeper than that. And I know it's through the internet, and it's just words, but still it's like there's something we're all trying to say.
What are some things you look for that would make you think?
When there is like a huge narrative around it, and it's all centered around them and how they were brave, or because I don't care if you are like a Navy SEAL. This shit is scary. It's super scary. And so I kind of, and again, that part's really hard too. And I could, I'm not, I have flaws. I mean, I'm sure there could be times that I wouldn't catch it, but just like, I'm trying to think of a specific example. If they borrow a lot of elements, you know what movie trope language is? Someone help me out here.
I didn't understand what you said.
Okay, movie trope language, like a movie trope.
A movie trope?
Yeah, like
you
the
mean
language.
so you're so when there's like a lot of symbolism, you.
Yeah, when it's, a once upon a time type thing, but not once upon a time. It's like very specific things within this. And the thing is, like, it's a phrase that's borrowed that's a little bit too specific, a little bit too specific. It's like a chain of words in the same exact order, and you can almost like copy paste from 5 different stories.
I mean, do you want to keep going? You can just keep.
No, I have no idea.
Okay.
I think you're doing really
Yeah, you're doing a really good job.
Really?
Yes.
You were talking about subreddits with crawlers?
Okay, yeah. How can I tell one's real? More than anything, just like when someone has to make themselves the hero of a story. This thing, I can't imagine anyone just like going after it. Or that's just me, but it's the most horrific, menacing, grotesque thing I've ever seen in my life. So that's all I have to say about that.
What did you do after you found the subreddit?
Okay, so I was reading through stories, and a lot of, I guess every third, fourth, it was a lot of them. I'm not sure the specific number, but of like maybe like 30, 40 stories. And at first I didn't know when they were fake, right? This is like, this happened 5-6 years ago, right? What are we in?
2018, 5 years, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so
5, 6.
I've kind of like obsessed over this for about 5 years. I know that sounds pathetic, but you just can't, or I couldn't. And I think there are other people like you either can't let it go or you just choose not to think about it. But I'm extra. I couldn't put it down. So what I was seeing was people, when they were describing this experience and this creature, they would say some combination of what I saw looked just like a trail cam photo, even though it's fake. And it was like they were super insistent on clarifying that they knew that thing was fake. And I thought, that's odd. And I just noted it in that moment, and I think I fell asleep on my computer that night.
What do you think it is?
Every time I think I'm close and I think I know, I don't. There's a lot of different ideas. One of the witnesses believes it's a skinwalker, and he seems sufficiently convinced. But I don't know that anyone can really say definitively it's this. What it seems to relate to most in my mind is a ghoul, which is absurd because you hear about ghouls and goblins. I never even really knew what a ghoul was. But the description, to me, I would say it's a ghoul, but then I can't even tell you what a ghoul is really. But I do know it's ancient.
Do you think that there's a reason? Well, why do you think you saw it?
Why not? Why not me? Why not you? I know you didn't see it, but I ask that a lot. A whole lot. I like to think, here we go again, sorry. I like to think that there's probably a higher purpose behind everything. I mean, I have to think that because my life is just a lot better when I do. I used to be really social. I had a lot of friends, and I really don't like to leave my house much anymore. I mean, I force myself, but also I was probably a giant biatch. I wasn't very considerate of other people's feelings. Like, I was cocky and egotistical and awful. And that, like, the self-awareness is super uncomfortable. And I don't know, it was kind of like a slow process of, you get humbled real fast when you see something like that.
How have your habits changed in regards, because like what you saw was very scary, right?
Yes.
How have your habits or your mindset changed as far as just daily, day-to-day life?
So, day-to-day life, I think everything is a lot slower for me. Like, I'm not, and I don't know, like, what, you were f***ing me up. Like, I'm realizing how bad this has gotten to me.
It's okay. It's fine.
Yeah, but I'm like, okay, me before this thing happened would have been like, you do what I say. And now I'm just like, I don't know, my capacity for compassion has just almost expanded so much it's painful.
So you could almost say that it's a positive thing that you saw this creature.
I don't like to say that, but of course it is. I mean, I don't like miss being a giant bitch. Like, being that way, I had no awareness of what anyone else thought of me, and I'm sure it wasn't very pleasant. I mean, I wasn't just like, who's the Dalmatians woman?
Cruella de Vil.
Yeah, I wasn't just like that. I didn't like eat puppies, right? But I mean, I didn't care what anyone thought about me, or like if I hurt someone's feelings. And now I have to like actively tell myself, you're not responsible for everyone's feelings. But I think there's like probably a fine line between understanding that you're not responsible for someone else's feelings and not letting the guilt eat you alive, and then just not giving a crap. Yeah, I think I said earlier, like, if this creature is evil, and it certainly felt like it was 100% evil, if it takes some of your evil, then is it really that bad?
Quite the perspective. So you think that this thing might actually be like, well, no, because that's not like an unreasonable assumption historically or theologically speaking, that this creature maybe absorbs malignancy.
That makes a whole lot of sense, yeah. But I don't know what I would have ever expected that to look like, because it's not something you can even anticipate, but it's so painful. I mean, change sucks, right? But I didn't have a choice. Like, I very much feel like I got pulled through it.
I mean, 200 years ago, flying was not normal.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that it's irrelevant or irrational.
Right.
Or like pseudoscience. Just because they couldn't doesn't mean they can't, and just because we don't know doesn't mean we won't. I bet you're curious about the polygraph test results that I've been maliciously withholding from you.
Yeah, I thought about it.
Well, it turns out, I believe the words were, not only did she pass, but she passed. He was very adamant that it's a scale of 10. Anything below 4 is a fail. Anything 4 and above is a pass.
I figured I would.
You're not surprised by that, obviously?
No, because I know all about lie detectors aren't accurate, and I just wholeheartedly disagree. I can feel it. Your body knows when you're lying, and it can't lie. And I wasn't. Honestly, sometimes I think my life would be a lot more simple if I didn't pursue any of this or didn't talk about it.
Even in the paranormal, cryptid, whatever you want to call it, world, this is really out there stuff. There are people who will openly talk about the chupacabra or the the Bigfoot they saw and will scoff at the rake. And that's something that I've found interesting about this, how even in the realm of weirdness there are layers. What would you say to the doubters?
I mean, I almost feel like, and this is maybe a bit snobby, but everybody's mind has a capacity to open to, I think, a certain degree. And if you know what you saw and you're hardcore, that's what it was, and nobody can tell you any different because you know, like, I don't really have many words for the doubters, but how the hell are you going to believe like a giant monkey man is walking around in the woods, and that's possible, but nothing else is? You know, I wondered at first, like, is this like a primate with mange, or like a albino primate? And I don't know, like that could be absurd, but the limbs are so long. And I base this off of videos that I've seen. There are a lot of videos of this thing. I mean, a whole lot. It kind of blew my mind because I hadn't really looked into Bigfoot or anything like that. I mean, why would you just randomly start research? Sorry. I didn't mean that.
I didn't think anything of it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, like, why would you just, I don't know. I guess people are interested in different things, right? So my relationship to the paranormal before this happened, when I was a kid, I saw ghosts quite a bit. And it was nothing to just like see an apparition walk through a wall. But I was a kid, so I didn't have that neuroticism where you like worry if you're crazy. It was just like, I assumed everyone else had that same experience.
Do you think it was your house or you?
I think it was the world. There are layers, right? It's everywhere. I think maybe I was born a little bit more perceptive. I was really fortunate that I was in a position where I didn't have to worry about like losing a job. If that's a very real fear for people, I think. Like, if you talk about this, your whole world, just because it does. And I didn't have to answer to an employer. I was in a position where I could say whatever I wanted. And I hopefully, like, that was the right move. I think so. You real quick, I think, in this world where people are open to the idea that other than normal things exist, you find your group of weirdos real quick, and it's like...
How pervasive do you think this kind of stuff is, as far as other people seeing it?
I think that you probably have to be primed to be able to even acknowledge what you're seeing. It's interesting because some people can become obsessive, some people can just dismiss it and decide not to think about it. But I think there's also another class of people where their mind won't allow them to remember what they saw. It will not allow them to go back and accurately see what that thing was. And so it's like, insert local wildlife here. I saw a deer. It's not really something to make a YouTube video about or like tell people, right? So
I've talked to people like that too. Would it be true to say that you've created like a network of people who have seen this, or that you're starting to?
No, I totally have. Yeah, I have. But then I think that network just gets larger and larger. And it's weird because when it happens, like, you see something like that and your world collapses in on you and you just I almost feel trapped. But then you start to, like, well, I don't know. I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, like, I don't think I could have been okay if I hadn't talked about it. Like, it was painful to speak up, and I don't like that there are some people that think I'm crazy. I just don't give a shit anymore. So not saying anything would have been much more painful, I think. I couldn't have kept that in.
Do you have any advice to people who have seen the same thing?
I mean, you're probably crazy, because we all are, but there are always going to be people who talk crap, like who put you down or, just write you off, but you're not, those people aren't for me. And I would say to anyone who's had an experience, it can feel like a lot of times it's not okay, like it's not going to be okay. But it is. You start to come to life again, I hope.
Without thinking about it too much, in one word, where do you think this thing came from?
I believe it to be interdimensional. I guess where it came from is where it goes back to. Honestly, like, and I've thought about this a lot, so I can't just, like, without thinking about it too much, because I've thought about it a whole lot. I think it existed before we did.
I'm comfortable cutting.